Hello, I'm Stephen Reeder, and welcome to an introduction to British and American literature. I hope you will join me over the next 13 classes on a literary journey through some of the very interesting times in Western literature. We're going to start today with Elizabethan drama and an introduction to what drama is. The word drama is Greek in meaning for doing or things done. Greek drama was influenced by religious ceremonies of the past. Participants observed and participated in rites and rituals. Since the audience was large and the actors' faces were hard to see, large gestures and actions, along with narrating emotions and actions, were important. Greek comedy and tragedy were a result of these rites. Comedy means revel, and it came out of the springtime fertility rituals performed for the Greek god Dionysus. As fertility rites suggest, the earlier forms were sexual in nature. However, the Greeks started to change them into a more serious art form. Since Dionysus was the god of wine and merriment, these types of dramas celebrated fertility and life. Comedy and drama does not just mean a funny story. It was used to divide stories with happy endings from tragedies, those with disastrous endings, although comedies by nature could be lighthearted and funny. Tragedy is a Greek term meaning goat song, which references the sacrifice of goats in ritual. It is also linked to the Dionysian death and resurrection ceremonies. Thus, tragedy is also related to human suffering. Classically, tragedy almost always dealt with people of importance. They could be gods, kings, generals, or community leaders with very human characteristics. Such lofty characters would then fall from grace, usually through a tragic flaw called hamartia. Tragic flaws can be an error in judgment, pride, or a misstep taken by the character. In the end, the protagonist either must die or fall to a lower status. The character's thoughts, dreams, and failures often mimic the audience's own. Thus, the tragic character was recognizable. This too served as a sacrifice, where the audience experienced pity and fear through the suffering of the main character. This allowed the audience to release these emotions, which is called catharsis. Drama is all about conflict. Audiences watch to see how the conflict is resolved. A play usually has a protagonist and an antagonist that shape the play through conflict. Other plays may take place in the mind of the protagonist. Then the antagonist is not physical, but mental. This is called internal conflict. The popularity of drama later developed out of competitions where three dramatists would have their plays performed. They were usually tragedies. These were usually followed by a lighter comedy, which usually used humor and jokes to poke fun at the corrupt and misinformed leaders of their time. Drama started out as mostly single characters reciting grand tales in monologue. One of the earliest known plays was Prometheus Bound by Aeschylus. It has no action. The protagonist, Prometheus, is chained to a rock and relates all the action through monologue. Sophocles was the first playwright to introduce two or more characters on the stage, but the number of actors in a drama rarely exceeded three. And this does not count the chorus, though. The chorus is defined as a group of actors narrating action and a character's thoughts. They would relate the backstory, sing songs, and even dance rituals that were often religious in meaning. The chorus was there strictly for the audience and was not part of the actual drama. They are similar to what we know as the narrator in today's modern movies. With the fall of Rome and the rise of Christianity, classical drama fell into disfavor. It was replaced by mystery plays, which enacted popular Bible stories. These started out as part of a church service. Then they moved outdoors and turned into tours that were conducted by traveling troubadours. These were followed by morality plays in the 14th century that dramatized allegory, turning emotions into characters, like the character sin or the character of courage. Thus, conflict between good and evil was taken from an internal struggle to one that occurred between actual characters in the play. Most of these plays were not noteworthy or well written, but these were the predecessors to the drama that came about in the 16th century. Dramas can be divided into 5 important sections. First, exposition sets up the play by establishing the setting and situation. These first scenes allow the audience to participate with the dramatic world by knowing where they are and who the characters are, and what the problem is that is needed to be solved. Second, characters must be made real for the audience. A stage is small and limiting, so there's not much way of action, but the characters must come to life from the very beginning. The audience must care for the characters in some way, or the play fails. Audiences can view into the minds of the characters through asides that only the audience can see, and any other character on the stage are not aware of. These can be short and witty, or lengthy soliloquies, which are speeches given when the character is alone and to reveal the character's thoughts. The audience must be careful of what the characters say, though. The audience must also listen to what the other characters say about each other to better understand their motives. This is usually the purpose of minor characters, to enlighten the audience about the main characters. This can be done as a foil through highlighting the main character's qualities by having opposing values or actions. Third, from ancient times, all the drama was revealed through dialogue, since the stage sets were bare, with little dressing. Even in modern plays, where there are lavish stage productions, dialogue is still the only way for humans to interact with each other. Of course, there are plays without any dialogue called pantomime, which are where actors just relate the story through actions alone. But the majority of the plays will have dialogue. There are times when the play has only one character talking for a length of time, or even an entire play that is spoken by one character. This is called a monologue. Fourth is plot. The plot leads the audience from the exposition at the beginning that introduces a problem to the final climax where the protagonist overcomes the problem, which is a comedy, or fails to succeed, which is a tragedy. After the main characters are introduced, a problem is revealed that creates conflict. The action of the play rises more and more to the climax of the play, then the declining action quickly clears up any loose ends that finally conclude with a denouement. Plays are made lengthier through subplots that can strengthen the main theme, and can include bits of comedy into a serious play, or may create foils for the main protagonist. The denouement of the play depends on the writer's intent for the protagonist as either a comedy or a tragedy. Most audiences prefer comedies, so writers often use a deus ex machina, which is Greek for God in a machine, to quickly turn a tragedy into a comedy. This was traditionally done by a god or goddess being lowered down into the stage for the last-minute divine intervention, which turns the protagonist's failure into a success. The fifth, and perhaps the most important characteristic of a play's success, is style. Since the success of the play lies with the characters, how the characters talk is very important. Audience must match the way the character speaks, known as idiom, with certain characteristics. Classical drama was often written in verse, which is a type of poetry that often rhymed. Shakespeare created a rather recognizable style. His royal characters often spoke in verse, while the lower class spoke in blank verse, which did not rhyme. Modern drama is often written in prose, the language of everyday speaking. Modern playwrights masterfully capture the language of the class they write about. For example, Arthur Miller's Willy Loman in A Death of a Salesman captures the language of the white working middle class. George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion changes the speech of a Cockney flower girl from the lower classes into that of a refined lady.